Manchester United have received a new £25 million bid for Mason Greenwood from a new surprise club. Lindelof apparently looking like he might move to Fenerbahçe to reunite with Jose Mourinho, plus all of the latest on the Jarrad Braithwaite transfer saga. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 200 likes on this morning's show. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel as well. I will be live throughout the whole of the transfer window. I usually do a video in the morning, a video in the evening. And if anything breaks during the day, I do go live as well. So make sure you subscribe here to keep up to date with all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Right. Let's jump straight into it then. Let's talk a little bit about Victor Lindelof. Now, I think we can all agree that Lindelof probably needs to be moved on, doesn't he? You know, he's not a terrible defender, but I just don't think he's of the level of what we need. I don't think he's particularly good at any one thing. I think he's just average at lots of things. Does that make sense? Like, he's not particularly strong. He's not particularly quick. Like, he's okay on the ball. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's just an all-round okay defender. He's 29. He turns 30 next month. He is obviously the captain for Sweden, so he does have some level of, well, you'd hope mentality. I don't know. Maybe he does. He doesn't seem like he does to me, but he's the captain of Sweden, so he must have some leadership qualities. But the headline this morning is that Fenerbahçe are set to make an offer of around 8 million euros, which is about £6 or £7 million, to sign Victor Lindelof. It says Lindelof is excited by the idea of reuniting with Jose Mourinho. Now, the story also goes on to say that Man United apparently are asking for around 13 million euros for Victor Lindelof, which I know some people will say, oh, that's really low. We should be getting more. Like, you know, why can we not sell players? Like, I can already see people thinking that in their head, but there are some quite important details that we need to consider when we're talking about this transfer. He's just about to turn 30. He's got 1 year left of his contract. He's on £140,000 a week. All of these things, if you break them down, 1 year left of his contract, which means if we don't sell him now, he'll leave for free in a year. 140k a week. Most clubs around Europe aren't going to want to pay him 140k a week. So there's going to have to be some level of, meeting in the middle almost. And also, obviously, his age, being 30. Some defenders play till they're 35, 36, 37. So in theory, he could go to Fenerbahçe and play there for the next 5 years and still be of that level. But for the Premier League, I don't think he was ever of the level for the Premier League, to be honest. I know when we signed him, a lot of people were excited about him, but yeah, I just think he's average, and I think the days of Maguire and Lindelof being our starting centre-backs have kind of scarred my memory, Yeah, I mean, maybe he's been a little bit hard done by because he's never really had like a run in the team with Martinez or a run in the team with Varane. It's always been with Maguire, hasn't it? So I'm not going to go too heavy on Victor Lindelof. I think he's been an okay player for Man United, but he's definitely someone I would be looking to move on. But what I want you guys to do is to get in the comment section. Let me know how much do you think would be a fair fee for Victor Lindelof. Yeah, I think about 13 million sounds completely fine. Obviously, I'd be very, very happy to get his wages off the books. 140k a week. I mean, that's ridiculous money, isn't it? For somebody who barely plays for Manchester United whatsoever. I mean, what's that a year? Let's have a look. He earns about £6.5 million a year. So if we got £13 million for him, 13 million euros. Obviously, we'd have 13 million euros, plus we'd save about £6.5 million in wages. So give or take about £20 million would come in one way or another. So yeah, it's an absolute no-brainer for me. I do think we need to sign 2 centre-backs this summer. I think that should be the priority. My understanding is that Manchester United are trying to sign 2 centre-backs. They want to sign Lenny Yoro from Lille. Apparently an offer went in a couple of weeks ago. And they also want to sign Jarrad Braithwaite. Those are the 2 targets that, Man United are really, really pushing for. Obviously, there was interest in Tosin, but apparently he wanted 160k a week, which is more than any of our other centre-backs apart from Maguire. That's more than Martinez, more than Lindelof. Obviously, Varane was on stupid wages, but he's gone. So we missed out on Tosin. But being completely honest, I think if we got Lenny Yoro and Jarrad Braithwaite, I don't think anybody would be complaining because they are 2 young, quality centre-backs. One right-sided centre-back, one left-sided centre-back. And the thing I really like about Jarrad Braithwaite is as well, which I think a lot of people have been saying to me in the comment section, oh, Jarrad Braithwaite's a left-sided centre-back. He's left-footed. Like, why do we need him? We've got Martinez. Jarrad Braithwaite also plays at right-sided centre-back as well because he's 2-footed. he's left-footed, but he is just as good with his right foot as he is with his left, which is one of the things that I think Erik ten Hag really likes about him. And this season for Everton, he's actually been playing at left back quite a lot because they had, I think, an injury problem at left back. So he's a very versatile defender, Jared Braithwaite, and he can play in lots of different positions. Left back, left-sided centre-back, and right-sided centre-back, which in our position gives us so many options. Because what happens if Luke Shaw gets injured again, which he probably will, and we don't have a left back next season? Then Jared Braithwaite could go there, and then you could have Martinez and Lenny Yoro as your two centre backs. I mean, that would be a quality defence, wouldn't it? Dallo at right back, Lenny Yoro and Martinez as your two centre backs, and then Jared Braithwaite covering at left back. Worst case scenario. So I think it's a no-brainer, and I think we should definitely do that. Everyone who's just joined the video, could you do me a little favour and smash a like? We've got over 200 people watching on the show this morning, which is absolutely amazing. Let's try and see 200 likes on today's show, guys. So everybody, go and give the video a thumbs up if you haven't already, and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. I'll drop a link in the chat to do that. But yeah, make sure you go and subscribe and make sure you like the video. I will read out some of your comments and stuff in a minute. I'm just going to rattle through some of the news and then I will come back to the comment section. So let's move on to Jared Braithwaite then, shall we? Because more and more stories are coming out about this. Anybody who's unaware, Manchester United had a bid of £35 million rejected by Everton. There was also £8 million in add-ons. So the total figure would have been £43 million, which some people are saying, oh, I think that's a fair price, but Everton want 70. So there's a big difference between 43 and 70, isn't there? There's, 30 million difference. Now, my understanding is that Manchester United are going to come back with an improved offer, somewhere around £45 million plus add-ons. I think this deal will get done, but I think it's probably going to be for a little bit more than that. I think it's going to end up being about 50 million euros plus about 8 million in add-ons. So the headline will be 58 million pounds. Does that make sense? 50 guaranteed, 8 in add-ons. That's probably at the very, very top end of what I think Jared Braithwaite's worth. I think that wouldn't be like a good deal. It would be maybe a fair deal. 35 million would have been a steal. 40 million would be a steal. As soon as you start going up more than kind of 40 million, I think it's probably getting closer to what his actual market value is, considering his, he's a young centre-back, already playing in the Premier League. He's been part of the England team, etc., etc. He has all of the attributes to be one of the next best Premier League centre-backs in the next decade. He's only 21. He's got years and years ahead of him. But the argument from Everton is that they're saying, well, you've spent big money on centre-backs in the past, i.e. you spent 80 million on Maguire. We want that kind of money. Which is really frustrating because obviously that was the fault of Ed Woodward, the fault of the Glazers, the fault of, the lack of director of football, the lack of a footballing CEO and people who effectively didn't know what they were doing and were just managing our football club like it was FIFA, Oh, let's go and sign Maguire. Okay, great. How much do they want? 80 million? Cool, let's buy him for 80 million. Like, Maguire was never worth 80 million. Jared Braithwaite is never worth 70 million, but in Everton's perspective, and I actually agree with this, if Everton look at us and say, you bought Harry Maguire, how old was Harry Maguire? Let's have a look. So Harry Maguire's 31 years old now. When we signed him, he was 26 when we signed him. So he was 5 years older than Jared Braithwaite, and we paid 87 million euros. And it says on the website that I use for all of my kind of data, it says that at the point of us buying Harry Maguire, right, his market value was 50 million and we paid 87 million. So we overspent by nearly 40 million on the Maguire transfer. Now, although Ineos are in power and we're trying to say, oh, we've changed, we're not going to overspend, like, Everton don't care about that. Everton still see us as the club that they can try and rinse for money because that's what we've been for the last 10, 15 years. So yeah, I think Ineos have got a really, really difficult negotiation to be had here. And I think if they manage to get us a good deal, then that will show that things have changed. If we end up paying 60, 70 million for Braithwaite, then that's just going to be a concern, isn't it? We need to be negotiating. We need to use our power against them. Everton need to sell a player, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we need to use that to our capabilities. Now, for anybody who doesn't understand how everything is working at the moment, profit and sustainability, the period restarts again after the 30th of June. Everton need to sell one player by the 30th of June to align with profit and sustainability rules because at the moment they're in big trouble. If they don't do it, they'll start next season with a points deduction. Okay? But they only need to sell one player. And the other player, which is obviously in high demand, is Amadou Onana. Now, Fabrizio Romano's come out this morning saying that apparently Arsenal and Aston Villa are in talks with Everton to sign Amadou Onana. Now, we could be completely screwed here. If Aston Villa come and sign Amadou Onana, they won't need to sell Branthwaite. They literally could say whatever price they want, and either we pay it or we don't. Like, there will be no negotiation because they'll say we don't want to sell him. I know we've agreed personal terms. I know he wants to come to Manchester United, but that can only happen when the two clubs agree a transfer fee. And if Everton say, you know what, we're not going to sell him for less than 70 million, we don't need to sell any more players, we've sold Amadou Onana, then we're stuffed. And that could well happen. So if I'm Manchester United, tomorrow morning, I'm submitting a new bid and I'm saying, come on, we want to get this deal done. The player wants to move, let's do it. Because Aston Villa and Arsenal are both negotiating for Amadou Onana. So we're in a really, really precarious situation here, and we've got to be fast, we've got to be resilient, and we've got to not be weak in this, because in the past we've been weak. We've allowed other clubs to bully us in transfers. We need to go in there. We have a good relationship with Everton, remember? Like, we've sold lots of players back and forth. You think of, obviously, Rooney coming to us. We loaned them Donny van der Beek, Schneiderlin, Fellaini. There's been so many players that have gone from Everton to Manchester United and vice versa. So we do have a good relationship with Everton, and I don't think we've ever really overpaid for an Everton player. So hopefully that helps us a bit. But still, they're going to be looking at that Harry Maguire transfer fee and saying, the last time you bought an English centre-back, you got absolutely rinsed. You paid £80 million, and we want that type of money. And I don't blame them. I would do the same if I was the owner of Everton. I would say, we can absolutely rinse them for everything we can get, But yeah, so Jared Brathwaite, I do think he will come. I do think that this deal will happen. I think it's just a case of getting the fee right. The first bid was rejected immediately. They didn't even entertain it. They're saying we want 70 million. They're not going to get 70 million. I'm sorry. It just will not happen. And then on the side note of that, Manchester United are apparently also talking to Bayern Munich for De Ligt. I personally think this is a smokescreen. I think this is a way of trying to worry Everton, right? To be like, oh no, they're looking at someone else. Oh, what are we going to do? We need to sell a player. But I just fear that if Everton stand their ground and say, okay, we're not selling him. If we go for De Ligt, I just don't think it would be a good signing. His injury record concerns me. He missed 20 games through injury this season. Every time it was some sort of knee injury, and that kept coming back. He's on over £300,000 a week. I just don't think that's a good signing. Whereas Jared Brathwaite, I think the personal terms we agreed were about 140k a week, which is still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. He's only on about 35k a week at the moment, Jared Brathwaite, but there's a big difference between 140 and 300 in it. It's probably about £7 million a year in difference in wages. Like that's a whole nother player, maybe even two players. Like Garnacho and Højlund are both being paid about 60 grand a week, 70 grand a week. We shouldn't be giving De Ligt 300k a week. I mean, that's stupid. I'm sorry. And if we did do that, then Bruno Fernandes is going to 100% say, I want more than that. He already does want more than Rashford, right? Imagine if De Ligt comes in, who, let's be honest, isn't the level of player Bruno Fernandes is. Bruno's going to say, what the hell is going on? I want more money. So they've got to be very careful here. But I personally do just think that this whole De Ligt link is just a smokescreen. I don't think it will happen personally, but we'll wait and see. Teddy says anything more than 50 million for De Ligt is unacceptable. Yeah, I think it will end up being 50 million plus add-ons, and it will be like, if we win the Premier League, they get $1 million. If he wins the player of the season, they get $1 million. Like things like that. It has to be hard to achieve add-ons. Otherwise, Somebody says, Maguire is not an argument. We also paid 100 million for Anthony. We made stupid mistakes in the past, so what? The thing is, right, we can say to Everton, oh, we're run by the Ineos now, it's different. But they don't care. They're still going to say you're the team who bought Harry Maguire for 80 million 5 years ago. Like, whether we say things have changed, things only change if other teams agree to our lesser fees. We can't just say, oh, times have changed, accept whatever we offer. Like, that's just not how the world works, is it? either Everton will say, okay, we'll do a deal with you, or they'll say, no, we want 70 million, you know? I think a deal will be done, though. As I said, Everton and Manchester United have always had like a good relationship by way of players going from each other. Like I said, Rooney, Schneiderlin, Donny van der Beek, Fellaini, like plenty of players have gone back and forth between the two clubs. And I would be very, very surprised if we don't get this deal done. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Right, let's move on from that, though. Everybody's just joined, if you could give a little thumbs up on the video. We've nearly got 100 likes on today's show, so please go and do that really quickly. It would really, really help to bring more people into the channel. So yeah, go and smash a like if you haven't already. Right, let's talk a little bit about this Mason Greenwood bid then, shall we? Because this has caught me by surprise, I would say. Obviously, we spoke about on the channel last week that Juventus had submitted an offer for Greenwood. But Fabrizio has said that Juventus need to sell a winger in order to buy another winger. So that could be Chiesa. I can't think of their other wingers off the top of my head, but they have to sell a winger, right? Which to me is, I mean, that's not ideal, is it? If we're going to sell Greenwood, we need to do it now and reinvest the money now. Like, I don't want to wait all transfer window for Juventus to maybe sell someone to then potentially buy him. Like, that just doesn't sound like a good idea to me. But we have been thrown a bit of a lifeline here. Valencia, this is coming out from multiple different outlets this morning, saying that apparently Valencia have just submitted a £25 million bid to sign Mason Greenwood. And it goes on to say that Mason Greenwood really wants to stay in Spain on a permanent deal. Apparently, the story says he's happy in Spain. His family are happy. Obviously, he had a successful loan at Getafe. He doesn't want to leave Spain. He doesn't want to go to Italy. He wants to stay in Spain. And you know what? There's all these people who will come in the comments and say, bring him back, blah, blah, blah. Like, I've said this for months and months and months and months and months, right? Just because you think that Mason Greenwood should come back, okay? We're not going to go into whether that's right or wrong. It's an opinion type matter. Like, as a fan of Manchester United, you also have to look at what's best for the player. And if the player is saying that they want to stay in Spain, then Manchester United should do everything they can to facilitate that deal. But yeah, so I think, 25 million is, let's be honest, a joke. Like, he's worth way more than that. I think 40 million is kind of the minimum that I think Mason Greenwood should be sold for, around that kind of figure. Some people will come in the comment section and say, oh, he's 100 million. When he was playing for Manchester United 3-4 years ago, I would probably say, yeah, he was an 80 to 100 million pound player, all things considered. He was probably our best winger. He was one of the most exciting talents in the Premier League, but obviously things change. Off the field matters happen, whatever. And that does devalue a player, okay? Whether you like that or not, that's a fact. Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting 25 million bids from Valencia. If he was worth 100 million, like, clubs wouldn't be offering 25 million, would they? Like, that just wouldn't happen. That's like us going and offering 25 million for Bellingham or for Vinny, or, like, it wouldn't happen. The bidding would have started way higher. So, although it's frustrating, although I know some people are going to say, oh, he's our best winger, blah, 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 generational talent, like, he will leave Manchester United. He's not going to come back. So the thing now is getting as much money as we possibly can out of this deal and then reinvesting that money, strengthening our squad. That's what needs to happen now. So 25 million, too low. I think if it was pushed up to about 40 million, I think we could probably do a deal. Obviously, that would really help us towards Michael Olise. His release clause is 60 million. So, yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. Obviously, I'll keep you updated as and when we get more news. Somebody says, who do you think is going to win the Euros? That's a good question. Obviously, not Manchester United related, but it's a good question. I'm going to ask it back to everyone in the comment section. Who do you think is going to win the Euros this summer? Let me know in the comment section below. I don't think England are going to win, to be honest. I think the hype around England is crazy. Like, Gareth Southgate is not a very good manager. The football he plays is not very good. And I think we have a good side, don't get me wrong, but it's whether that side can actually click and play together. So I don't think it's going to be England. I think England might get knocked out quite early, to be honest. I just have a feeling. Who do I think is going to win? I don't know. Spain looked pretty good yesterday. It's quite hard to say until I've seen all of the teams play. Do you know what I mean? I think after the first game, I'll be able to give more of an opinion. But if I was to guess at this point, I'm gonna go Spain. Spain, maybe. I don't know. It's difficult. Let's talk about this again once I've watched every first team play, because at the moment, like, Germany look good, Spain look good. Lots of teams look good already, don't they? So yeah, I'm gonna wrap the video up here, guys. I will try and do a video later on today, probably about 6 o'clock. Obviously, in the weekdays, the videos are always at the same time, 11 and 6. But on the weekend, obviously, I've got to go out and do things and stuff, so it makes it a bit more difficult to do it at exact times. But obviously, back from tomorrow morning onwards, it'll be 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Although I was thinking about going back to the old show time, which was 8 a.m. So I'm going to have a think about that today, and I'll let everybody know. But have a great day, everybody. I'll speak to you all a bit later. Please do smash a like on the video before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you all soon.